Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Oh, guilty, but with a real good excuse.
Order in the court! Order in the goddamn court!
Sir, you're out of order.
All right. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Oh, guilty, but with a real good excuse.
Order in the court! Order in the goddamn court!
Sir, you're out of order.
What is up, Spurs Nation? You're hanging out with Rob from Bucking Spurs. This is OOC Live, and I'm joined by Matty from Spurs Fan Blog. What's going on, Matty?
What's up? Hey, I got a haircut.
Oh, what?
I got a haircut. That's first one in months. Oh, so happy.
Nice. I got mine scheduled for 2 weeks from now, because that's how life is now. What's going on, Destin? Also with us today is Destin from Clan the Spurs Fan and Spurs Wave on Instagram. What's going on, man?
That's good. That's good. I haven't got a shave, but I'm sure my mom will do it for me. But yeah.
I have this hat here. I think I'm going to put it on. Maddie's got me all self-conscious now.
Oh, yeah. No hats for me for the next 3 weeks at least.
At least it's not a beanie. At least it's not beanie like Harrison. Shout out Harrison. We miss you, bro. We miss you, bro.
Yeah. Hey, it doesn't say we're live, I don't think.
Maybe it's a delay.
Yeah, I think it's a delay.
Okay.
So let me see. First thing on our agenda, you guys voted. Spurs Nation, you guys went to oocspurs.com and you voted for what you wanted us to talk about first, and that's just what the recent NBA status is on the resuming play. So we've heard a lot of things. I mean, there's been some meetings that have come out. There's been some phone calls between the Players Association and Adam Silver, mediating between the owners. And, to me, it sounds like everybody wants to play. When it comes to the players, on the player side, I don't know what's going on with the league. I'm sure the league wants to resume play, but there's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts that go into this decision. Obviously, one of the things that I saw today was Woj talking about the small markets and how if they resume play without attendance, how much that's going to affect the small markets in the league. And so that's just kind of one of the main concerns for me because, hey, we're a small market, we're Spurs Nation. But what are y'all's takes on all this that's going on right now?
You want to go ahead, Matty?
Yeah, I can start us off. I mean, I know that the NBA is going to try up until the last possible second to resume the NBA season. I imagine if they do, it'll be just the playoff teams And so unfortunately, that for the Spurs, that would mean that our season would be over. But whether or not they will, I just don't really see it happening. But, like I said, they're going to try their absolute hardest until the very end. They need that money. They need that revenue. And I'll take the NBA without fans at this point. It's not ideal, but I mean, we got to get something going. And I would hope that NBA would take a page out of MMA's book, or UFC, sorry. Because I was watching, I'm not a huge UFC guy, but I was watching the fights on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really weird just having the fights with no fans. And, you hear all the punches and the coaches. And, it was weird. And it kind of, took some getting used to. But I think other sports can kind of take a page out of their book and use the same format. Go to a good location, get everybody there. You try to test everybody on the staff and, don't allow fans. And, maybe you can do it. But it's a lot easier with UFC with only a couple fighters and, of obviously the staff, but, the basketball organization is going to have a lot of staff and a lot more players. But, I think it's possible. I hope to see it happen. I hope to see a return, but I don't know how realistic that is at this point. I think they're probably just going to scrap it, but I don't know. What do you think, Destin?
I say cut it. I say just cut it. I mean, almost at this point, I know like the players, I mean, what else are they going to say? No player is going to say, I don't want to play right now, or they're not going to do that. They have a fan base, so they're going to try to portray like they want to play no matter what. But a lot of players like Shaq, former players and analysts or whatever you want to call them, are coming out and saying, just scrap it. I mean, what's the point? Because at this point, I mean, we're not going to get that great of a product. And as far as what Matty was saying, as far as like doing the same thing that UFC did, I think that it could work. And I know that we're going to talk about The Last Dance later on, but I think it could definitely work when you think of just taking it to a different location and not the same arenas. Because doing it at, yesterday they did at AT&T Center and we're watching the Spurs and there's no crowd out there, that's just ugly. But if you did it where it was more of a gym setting or more of a like, what am I trying to say? Like a grimy, grit and grind type environment, or like more street, or like, and then you play the music in the background and then you can hear the players here. I don't know how well that's going to go, but you can hear the players. It can be pretty intense, just like Magic, in the Jordan, thing they had going back and forth. It could get intense and it could get maybe even more real. So it looks like next season it probably won't be fans at all. But yeah, I would say just scrap it. I mean, what's the point? Easy to say being a Spurs fan, but at the same time, just scrap it. Like,
I'm here like I'm on both y'all sides. Like when it comes to like man, we saw what the response will be to getting sports back with the UFC fight, like you said, Matty. It's like, man, everybody, they probably had one of their best ratings, whatever, in years, because people are just dying, fiending, excuse me, for sports. And man, I'm fiending for basketball. And selfishly, like, yeah, I want them to start play. I want the Spurs to play though too. I don't want the NBA to start play and then cut out all the teams that were not in the playoffs at the moment. I want them to kind of pick up where they left off, and in some type of way, you take away travel, and then you take away, that's half of the season, just travel time. So maybe they can reschedule those games. And then I heard that Woj was saying also that, if they resume play this year or not, it doesn't really matter, that next season is most likely going to be starting in December. I don't know if y'all heard that too. It's like, so either way, it's going to start in December. So if that's going to be the case, and we're not going to get, next year's NBA season until the end of this year, if they're going to resume play, give us the remaining 15 games, or whatever that were on the schedule. I would like to see it. Obviously, it has to be done in a very careful way, but I don't know. I want to see it. I'm on that boat right now. I think like a week ago I was like, nah, the players, they haven't played, whatever. But nah, I think the NBA has smart enough heads in there to figure out a way to come back where the players wouldn't be at risk, and I don't know, we can make it work.
Well, they're going to have the the best treatment. I mean, that's number one. I mean, they are going to get the best treatment. They are going to get tested more than a lot of people. So, I mean, they will be in a decent position. I guess I'm not really worried. I guess I'm not too worried about the fans. It's just, I mean, the players at this point. It's just, I don't know. Maybe it's just me personally. My hype has died down a little bit, but it's something about like that momentum, going into the playoffs. And I just don't want me personally. I just don't want it to be a finals where we have an asterisk next to a team that wins. And I just don't. I don't know. That's just me.
You got to remember the point Harrison brought up that was really good, and that if we do resume, you're going to have like a 3 weeks to 25-day training camp minimum, because otherwise you're just going to see a skyrocket of torn ACLs and other knee and ankle and back problems, because you go from this hiatus of several months now back into play. I mean, the human body just isn't designed to work like that. There's a reason there's training camps for every single sport, and it's tough. I wouldn't want to be in a leadership position for any organization right now, because no matter what decision you make, it feels like it's going to be the wrong one, no matter what. I'm with you, Destin. Like, I want them to scrap it selfishly as a Spurs fan. Like, I want the playoff streak to continue. And, if they do return, I would take the season returning, basketball returning, just even if it meant the Spurs didn't make the playoffs, just to have sports back. Like, it's been really tough, and I was so happy to have UFC on the other day. I don't care about UFC all that much, but just to have something on, I think we as just a people just kind of need that to look forward to. But again, I don't see it happening. I mean, they're talking about college football not happening because they won't have that unless the universities allow students to be back on campus, which is very doubtful for this upcoming fall. So you're not going to have college football. I don't know what's going to happen with the NFL. It's just a mess. And I don't know. I hope we kind of see organizations and businesses all together just kind of start to make those steps towards, normality or whatever that may look like.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, I just don't see it. Yeah, especially college, but I don't know. I just don't see the NBA doing it at this point. I mean, it's just.
What's best case scenario? I guess
it's just hard for me to see.
What's best case scenario for the NBA right now? I mean, I think if you're looking at, we're in May, we're almost done with May. June, July, August, September, October, November, December. December is 7 months away. So if they want next season to start in 7 months from now, the normal season started in October. Training camp, the beginning of October, the NBA finals are in June, July's, August, September, October. So, I mean, a normal break for the teams that make it to the finals is 4 months. You know what I mean? December's 7 months away. So to me, it's like, okay, what's the timeline here? That gives us like 3 months of wiggle room to, if we can maybe schedule a way for the NBA players to come back, train for 2-3 weeks, get their, that's a normal training camp. A normal training camp is 3 weeks and about 5 preseason games. You know what I mean? And then they're off and running. So, and I know that they're not, training like they would during, an NBA season, but I'm sure for the most part, they're at least running, they're at least staying active, doing yoga. I'm pretty sure that, every team's coaching staff is monitoring every player via Zoom and doing virtual workouts and all types of stuff. So I'm not too worried about that. I feel like there's time to work that in. And I feel like that might give us 2 months, okay, so there's a window in here where maybe if we schedule, like they're saying in Las Vegas or in Orlando, that's where they want the 2 sites to be. Okay, so we'll finish out the season in these 2 spots. All the teams are there or whatever. They travel maybe back and forth between there. And maybe they can finish out the season and actually start a playoff season. I think there's time. I don't want to rule it out. I know that, it's not up to the owners. It's up to like state legislature and a lot of different things, a lot of moving parts. But, I think we have like a 3-month window here where in about 2 weeks, I think that we'll be seeing our final decisions. In about 2 weeks from now, we'll know. okay, it's done, or it's still on the table?
Well,
But
go ahead, Dustin.
I was just gonna say, do you think that there could be a way of making it, extremely eventful now, opposed to next season? 'Cause I know by next season, we can go ahead and probably assume that there won't be fans. I mean, just
Yeah.
assuming that it won't be fans, they're gonna have time to make this look, I guess, as cool as they could possibly make it look, as far as us watching it on television. Do you think they have enough time right now to have it in certain areas and then start the playoffs and it looks presentable, or do you think it's would just look kind of I don't know. It's just I just think I imagine them going into a gym at this point
Hmm.
and playing it out in the gym. And I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to see that.
Well, I mean, the MLB is talking about having their games in Arizona for like where the training camps and what do you call it? They're whatever the preseason games, spring training. When their spring training comes out, they're like talking about having it all there. The players will be quarantined at the hotel, so like they go straight from the hotel to the stadium. And I think it'd be similar for the NBA if they were to kind of do it to one location, Vegas, Orlando, wherever. It almost could be like that Orlando, the summer league. Back when there was a summer league in Orlando, and it was just like that small gym, and there were barely any fans, or there was barely any room for any fans there. I think that could be something that would be worth looking into. But again, I'm not in the front office of the league making those type of decisions. I think they're going to make decisions for the health and safety of their players and the fans, obviously. I mean, what do you guys think this is going to be like for next year? Like, are we probably going to be like 50% capacity? I mean, because like the NFL was like talking about that too. Like the Packers, because I'm from Wisconsin, we have our schedule released, and we're playing like at Minnesota, at New Orleans, and they're like, these are huge road games. But if it's like 50% capacity, that's going to make a big difference for the road team, And same thing for NBA.
I think the NBA has got to be in the mindset of how do we keep a product alive. You know what I mean? I think in any type of way that they humanly can is what they have to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think the summer league comparison, Matty, is right on the head. It's exactly like it would. That's exactly what it would be, bro. It would be just like Las Vegas, dude. All the teams are there. They're all walking around, hanging around. They're all watching each other. Like when you go to a summer league, game, there's all these players everywhere. There's all these coaches everywhere. There's all these, scouts and whatever, and they're all there watching. And that's how this would be, because they'd all be in one location, right? I mean, I think you would probably keep the fans out of it to finish out the season. But next year, I think you have to have the mindset of the NBA is like, man, do we do some type of capacity limit, or do we do no fans at all? You know what I mean? It kind of it's such a hard question to answer because we don't know what the future will be like, and everything's going to be different, man. Like going out, it's going to be different. Education's going to be different. Sports, and it's going to be like it's just another one of those things.
Yeah, I mean, the only consistent thing in life is change, I guess.
Yeah.
And going forward, look, I want to see sports just as much as anybody else, and I guess it's just that change where I guess no one knows really, but it's like I just don't know what direction this is going to go in. But if it's the NBA, multi-billion-dollar organization, association, they're gonna find a way to make it presentable and make it look, pretty good, and still try to get their money. And I don't know, when you said 50% capacity as far as the fans, that probably will be it, and it will be sold out every night, basically.
How weird would that be, man?
Ticket prices are going to be like skyrocket.
Oh my god! Yup.
And it's so expensive already. Like
the demand, man. Like the demand that people are gonna want to be at sporting entertainment, whatever. And that ticket's gonna be twice as hard to get as it was before. Dude, oh my goodness.
It's
people want exclusivity. I don't think I said it right. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like people want.
I mean, I think we have to start taking steps back towards normality. Like we're eventually, Obviously we got to do it in the safest way possible, but eventually we're gonna have to start. I don't know. I don't have like a set date. I think in certain regions it could probably happen sooner than later. Like a hot spot like New York. Obviously, that they're going to be a little more careful versus where I'm at in the Midwest. We have a lot less compared to those. But as far as like for organizers, fans, for the fans' point of view, like the league can kind of shift everybody to one location. MLB MLB and NBA. But as far as the fans, and we're all over the place. You can't just say like, oh, if you live in the Midwest, well, you're the lucky ones because there's not as much, the virus doesn't spread as much there, so you can get to go to games. But then if there's games in Brooklyn, New York, well, you're shit out of luck. So right. It's an unfortunate situation for the fans because we're just kind of stuck, and and we don't really know when we're going to be able to kind of get back to being able to go to these sporting events at full capacity. And it's unfortunate for the players too, of any sport, because they love playing in front of fans. They get a lot of momentum from the fans. Home court advantage has always been huge for a lot of teams like us. So the whole thing is just disappointing. But we'll get through it. We'll get to back to normal, and things will be okay. I hope people do know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the NBA said that ticket sales, like at the gate ticket sales, is 40% of its revenue, right? So I mean, that's a huge number. So they in other words, they're gonna try to recoup some of that, like you said, in some type of capacity, 25%, 50% of that. They're gonna have to try to get back in some way. But let's go ahead and leave it there. We'll keep y'all posted on what we know as the timeline moves forward. But let's go ahead and talk about The Last Dance. The last 2 episodes came out this past Sunday. The first one was centered a lot about, his something that I kind of remember about that episode. I think it was episode 7. Am I right about that?
Yeah.
Episode 7 was the whole thing about his gambling and how that was an issue. The media trying to make that an issue, and like the low blow of saying that when his dad died, that maybe it had to deal with Jordan's gambling debt here and there. Well, I was like, man, dude, whatever, dude. I was like, who wrote that nonsense? I was like, believe me, if MJ had a gambling debt, that debt be taken care of, no worries. That guy does not have to worry about money even back then. So just I don't know, what were y'all's takes on the last 2 episodes? In general,
what you just said, like that whole thing trying to flip the narrative, it just seems it's crazy, man. Because I think all of us were like either just little kids or not born yet where a lot of that stuff happened. Mm-hmm. And I just look at it, and I always knew Michael Jordan was the greatest ever. Like I always saw the highlights. I knew his aura. I knew about him. I knew the 6 champion. I just knew. Like this guy's the greatest ever, and closest to that in my lifetime was Kobe. And just seeing the way that the media even tried to bring him down at that point, it's kind of sickening, man. That whole gambling thing. His problem is it wasn't. I don't think gambling was his addiction. His addiction was just being competitive. And when you're in something like gambling, it is a competitive act. Like it is a competitive activity. And
that's what he told the lady in the interview. He was like, I don't got an addiction to gambling. I got addiction. He had to do that interview. Did you see that? He did like a Barbara Walters interview, and that's what he said. It was addiction to being competitive.
Because Jordan wants to own his opponent. That's what he was all about. And it's something about, like he said on the I think were they on the plane or the bus, and he said one of the players was like, why do you want to gamble with us? I mean, I'm only gambling $1, $5. He's like, I want your money in my pocket. Like that's the type of guy he was.
Yeah.
And for his father to be murdered like that, and for them to try to flip it on him like that just was not cool. It was not cool whatsoever. But yeah, I love it. I'm loving The Last Dance, man.
Yep.
So, full disclosure, I haven't seen the last 2 weeks, so like the last 4 episodes. It was my birthday last Sunday, and this past Sunday I was doing a lot of homework. But I know the story. I know what it was centered around, and the whole gambling issue. And I agree. I mean, that's just an easy narrative for the mainstream media to kind of take and run with. I don't know the details within that, but I agree with you, Destin. I mean, it was just in his DNA. You saw that in guys like him and Kobe, just that killer mentality and that competitive mentality, and it was just in everything they did. I've played with guys like that, where it's just whether it's on the court, off the court, playing ping pong or pool, like they just are one of those type of guys that are just so damn competitive, and it's just in their blood that they have to be the best at everything. Mm-hmm. And Michael was just one of those guys, and it's kind of a gift and a curse, in some ways. But yeah, like you said, Rob, I mean, any debts that he had, I mean, he could pay off yesterday. So
yeah, no, man. What I'm loving most about this documentary is the insight to his competitive nature, and a lot of that we know, and we call it Mamba mentality nowadays. Kids today call it Mamba mentality, but really it was MJ's mentality, and he passed it on. But it's so awesome, man, to hear his inner monologues about not wanting to lose and being out there and how and why he pushes his teammates. And he was like, dude, and a lot of the later, I like what he said. He was like, if he's like, I'm going to be great. He's like, I already know what I'm going to do. I'm going to work this hard or whatever. And if you don't want to be pulled, then you don't have to play with me. He's like, but it takes a certain individual to want to play with me. And that's kind of like what they say about LeBron, man. It's like, man, it's so hard. It's so hard to play with LeBron. And it's like, yeah, because if you're going to play with LeBron, you better be willing to sacrifice and play up to a certain level. And if you're not playing at that level, he's going to check you every single day for it because he doesn't want to lose. And so he's going to raise the bar every single day in practice. And I like the story. Like in this past episode, they got into the story of him and Steve Kerr, right? They got into that one. And we all kind of heard of the story. Oh, he got punched or whatever in practice. But you don't know, you now have that story with the full context around it, and of what the situation was at the time. Like Jordan had just come back off of retiring and coming off baseball, that stuff. Yeah, and he came back and he came back with that fire, man, and he took it personally that Coach Jackson put Steve Kerr on him to guard him. And Kerr didn't back down, and the rest played out the way it was. But it's just so awesome, dude, to see the competitive nature and to hear why he did the things he did. And a lot of it just makes you think of Kobe. Man, I think about Kobe the whole time in these last two episodes.
See, this is the thing. Like, okay, watching this have really, I don't want to say it shaped my mentality as far as what I thought of Jordan. But it definitely gave me more context, like you said, because I've always said, I was like, man, what was the biggest difference between, Kobe and Jordan? I was like, was there really a big difference? And the more I watch this, the more I'm like, yeah, like Jordan is Kobe, but better, because even with him going at his teammates and the way he would go at them, you hear these stories like, oh my God, he was such a jerk punching Steve Kerr. But no, when you have the context, you understand everything that was going on with Jordan. You understand every single thing that was going on with that team. And really, when people say, I know like a lot of, especially younger people, want to try to downplay it and say, well, is that leadership? That's not leadership. Stopping a guy from eating, or that's not leadership. It's like, dude, you have no idea what you're talking about. And like Jordan said, if you think that what I did, I'm paraphrasing, but if you think that what I did was mean or something like that, or you don't understand, that's because you never won anything. And you're looking at Jordan in this perspective, like, yes, this dude is the greatest ever. And I don't even think that people should even compare. I don't want to just bring up the like LeBron Jordan debate, because I don't think there is a debate, but I don't even think you should compare the two. Like he is miles ahead. And I'm sorry, when people like Magic Johnson and Larry Bird come forward and say, yes, this is the greatest player ever, you're the greatest player ever. I mean, and it's not just because they played with him. They're saying this guy is the greatest player ever that we've ever seen play. And I watch him, and I'm watching this documentary, and I'm seeing what everyone has to say about Jordan. Not one person has said that Jordan was a bad teammate. Now, with with Kobe, and I loved Kobe, and I was terrified of Kobe. People could argue that Kobe was not a good teammate, and you kind of saw it oftentimes with Kobe. But it was something about Jordan, his aura, his swag, the way that he was so approachable off the court, till you could see that, yeah, everything as far as basketball was at practice and on the court. And I'll say one more thing about was it the last episode? It was either 8 or 7, but when they were talking about this is the difference. I'm gonna make a comparison. Screw it, I don't care. Here's the difference between a LeBron and Jordan, in my opinion. I think LeBron James at this point, especially a lot of his career, it's been about the branding. It's been about, when certain things happen, he tried to change the narrative with a little thing. He might tweet something subliminal. He might do, he do a little things to try to tweak the narrative here and there. And I was thinking, well, it's not a big deal that a player go and try to make a movie or do, a lot of side things. That's cool. I was like, Jordan did it. But after seeing what Jordan did, there's no way another player has done that filmed a movie and then had a facility built and played all day. He would film in the morning and practice until like 10 p.m. at night. There's no way another superstar has done that. There's no way.
I'm sorry, finish your thought.
No, I was just saying it's physically impossible.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I just want to take a quick pause to give a shout out to the group chat. Ruru, first of all, shout out to Ruru. We love you. Thank you all so much for your support. You named my challenge, and that's his username.
Oh,
yeah, you can ask questions, dude. Ask questions. We'll try to get an answer to you. And also shout out to Rohan Abraham, winner of the last giveaway. He said his top 10 in order is MJ, Bron, Kareem, Magic, Bird, Duncan, Shaq, Kobe, Wilt, Bill. Now, I want to ask you guys this, a little off topic, but it's something that I think it's worth pondering as Spurs fans. I saw it on Twitter, on Spurs Twitter this morning. It was some long lines of, man, if Tim Duncan had the mentality of Michael Jordan, the Spurs would have won like 8 or 10 championships. Now, I think I know what you guys are going to say or have an idea, but what do you guys think about that? Because this might be unpopular, but I kind of disagree with the MJ LeBron debate. Like, I think you have to look at more in context and look at who LeBron's playing. And, when you talk about the Jordan's mentality, I think it was just for guys like that, just for guys like Jordan, just for guys like Kobe, guys like LeBron, that's just not who they are. And I just don't think that's Tim Duncan's mentality. And, what would you guys say to that?
I would say, you want to go first, Rob?
No, go for it. Go for it.
I would say when it comes to Tim Duncan, man, saying, first off, I want to know their name.
Yeah, who said that?
Yeah.
Where does he live?
I can go investigate on Twitter.
Where does he live? Give me
I
his
need to
address.
I need to address them by their
I got
name.
a carton of eggs for him with his name on
Yeah,
it.
listen, John. That's come on, man. Okay, if he had the mentality of Jordan, there's certain players that had that type of mentality. Don't get it confused because Jordan has swag. He had a certain demeanor, but he always wanted to win. That's the key thing with Jordan. He pushed himself to the limit where he wanted to win, and in my opinion, ended up being the greatest player ever. Tim Duncan ended up being the greatest power forward ever. He had Jordan's mentality all the time. I guarantee you in practice he was getting on the players. I guarantee you saw it on the court every game. He'll grab you like, hey man, what are you doing right here? He just had a different demeanor about himself. It's not that he didn't have Jordan's mentality. There's very few players that have it, but he had it. He had it, and he ended up getting 5 championships from it. So he had it. Like that. No, that's bogus. Saying that he didn't have it, that's bogus. He had it.
Yeah.
Kobe had it. He had it. Shoot, Iverson. No, Iverson didn't.
No, yeah, he
You know what I'm
did.
saying?
He did.
Yeah, 'cause sometimes, man, the practice thing was kind of.
Yeah. I totally agree. I mean, look, they're two different people, but they have the same mentality. They both hate losing. They both want to win at all costs. They're both killers. If you're talking about, I think maybe what the question stems from is the way that they the way that they acted and practiced, the way that they conducted themselves amongst their teammates. Yes, two bipolar different opposites in that regard. But I mean, kind of going back to like Jordan and why he did it the way he did it. He says it in the documentary in this last episode. He's like, all my teammates right now, they didn't go through what I had to go through to get here. He's like, I rose this organization out of nothing to get it to where it was. He's like, I had to go through, the battles against Detroit and all that stuff. He's like, I had to go through all that stuff. And like, past like his second championship, a lot of those players that were there through all that started to go away. And then it became, putting all these new players around Michael to help, build his dynasty. But building his dynasty, that's why he pushed his teammates as hard as he did, because they didn't have to go through that. He did. So he's like, you know what? I had to go through it. I had to compete at this level, every single day. I had to take the bumps and the bruises. So I'm going to play at this level. And if you don't want to play, here with me, that's why. And I think Tim Duncan, he didn't do that. They just had two different careers. You know what I mean? The teams, the coaches. I love the coaching story with Jordan and his first coach. What was his name? In the first few episodes, they talk about it.
I know you're talking about. I swear his name.
Doug Collins. So Coach Collins, and like he was just there. He got a lot of touches, but he didn't start winning until they got rid of Collins and brought in Phil Jackson. You know what I mean? So like. Then they had to go, I don't know. I just think they're two completely different stories, two completely different people. But they're both alphas. I mean, this should not be a question about that killer mentality.
It wouldn't have worked if I feel like if Duncan was like, say Duncan was trying to emulate Jordan with everything, with his demeanor, the way he went about it, it just wouldn't have worked. Duncan fit with the Spurs because of the type of person he was. He wasn't about the limelight or anything. Like, I'm not saying Jordan was, but Jordan had a certain swagger to him, and Duncan was coming into an organization that they didn't win championships yet, but that was a pretty successful organization amongst other organizations. It was pretty respected even when he came there. So it's just a totally different scenario. If you want to say he had Jordan's mentality, he had it.
So one thing though I have been thinking about during this Last Dance run, and Ruru kind of asked the question, shout out Ruru, what people should get from the Last Dance is winning ain't easy, repeating ain't easy, and three-peating damn sure ain't easy. It takes mental and physical toll. And I think I'm getting that too out of all this is watching, man, like seriously, that winning 3 in a row is damn near impossible. And that kind of lends itself to the argument of why Phil Jackson, said what he said a few months ago or a year ago, whatever, about the Spurs not being a dynasty because we never won back-to-back championships and we never won 3 in a row. Now, seeing what he had to go through to win 3 in a row, it's like, holy shit, I can totally understand why he's making that argument. It's a extremely valid argument. You know what I mean? If you want to categorize dynasties into that, yeah, sure. I mean, it's a fair argument. Now, I don't agree with it. I think, we won, 5 in 3 decades. That's a dynasty with the same 3 players, for 4 of them. You know what I mean? That's a dynasty however way you want to split it, cut it, dice it, whatever, separate the pieces, however, it's a dynasty. But I think I see more of where he's coming from, because he had to go through the three-peat twice in Chicago, and then he had to go and do it twice in LA, and he didn't get the last one. They lost, right? But I mean, I kind of understand. That's at a whole other level in itself in greatness in this game when you're talking about teams. Teams that got to win 3 in a row I agree with, should be in a category of their own. But the dynasty category, that's not where I differentiate what teams are dynasties and which aren't. But it's a great argument. It's a great argument.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, with what you said about dynasties, I'm gonna rewind a little bit. Talk about like Duncan mentality versus MJ. So I'm gonna sound like a very biased Spurs fan here, but I have some reasons behind this statement. if I was, like they always say, like if you were a GM, who would you take, LeBron or Jordan, or if you could center your team around one player? And if I want championships, if I want sustainability, if I want, structured, like, can't find a favorite word, but like basically, like if I want sustained success, and if I could pick any one player in NBA history, I'm picking Tim Duncan. I mean, LeBron, obviously, that doesn't mean he's the best player in NBA history. I mean, I would have him in my top. I would have him like in the top 5. But I mean, there are certainly there are players who are better than him. Michael, LeBron. You can argue Shaq. Not that I think Shaq was better, but there's certain players you can argue over better. But you look at those players. LeBron left Cleveland, left Miami, left Cleveland. And I'm not saying I'm not faulting him for that, but Tim Duncan was one of those few guys that stayed with the team for so long. You had problems with Shaq. You had problems with Kobe. You had problems. I mean, I know we're talking about how great Jordan was. You take away Pippen from him, look at his playoff record without Pippen. Was not very good. Dude couldn't even get out of like the first or second round without Pippen. I'm not trying to take away anything from MJ, and he also.
But he made Pippen what he was, though. Pippen was just and Pippen said it himself. He's like, I needed that. He's like, I needed that person to push me to be that alpha to me to raise my game, because you can tell that Pippen, maybe being a great player that he was coming into the league, I think he had the drive. I remember his like rookie year, he was saying that he was going to be better than MJ, but that quickly changed like 2 games into the season. You know what I mean? But MJ brought him to that level, and he to put the work in to get there. But I mean, you could say that Jordan wouldn't have been, what he was without Scottie, but Scottie definitely would not been as good as he was if he wasn't around Jordan every single day in practice.
Oh yeah, for sure. But like to continue my point, like with Duncan, we never seen a team be able to transition from era to era just seamlessly without any issue, and that was because of Tim Duncan. Like he was able to have success like at the very top level in you could argue 3 different eras, right? He was a part of the early 2000 big man era, and I guess you could probably say 2 eras because more went from the big man to the kind of more the point guards.
3.
Yeah, I would just like, what would be the third? He kind of was the big man of the early 2000s.
And then I think it kind of became like the hand checking, like Kobe, KG, like Iverson era. After the big man era, it kind of shifted there for about 8 years. And then when Curry did what Curry does now, the game changed again, which Duncan was there for. That's what I'm saying, like 3.
Yeah, and I mean, just to have that centerpiece of your franchise. I don't care what anyone says. I'm not saying I was mad when Kawhi won the Finals MVP. I was like, yeah, he deserved it, but I could have easily made a case for Tim Duncan. He could have easily won that Finals MVP in 2014, and he's one of the few players who have all 5 championships. Like he was the centerpiece of all 5 of those runs. Obviously, wasn't perfect for the whole 19, 20 years, but like he was the centerpiece. And when I'm taking like everything into account, if like I want to center, a team around one player, like he checks every single box that even guys that might have more talent than him, there's certain things about them that like, they're, whether it's loyalty or off court drama or, contract, like they're sucking up all the money, like, so, like certain players later in the career, like that was never him. And that's just for all those reasons and more. Like if I want to center my franchise around one player, I'm doing Tim Duncan all day.
That's true. I'm with you. I'm with you with that too. It's kind of a tough thing because when you think of Kobe, I don't know if I want to just center around Kobe. It seemed like there's a lot of pressure there. LeBron, just not enough loyalty. There's plenty of, I can go on and on about LeBron, but there's no loyalty there. Like he'll flip flop from here to here to here. If you start losing, he'll leave. When it comes to Jordan, maybe it's just the presence of having Michael Jordan and how big that was at the time. I guess it's just kind of tough to tell because even with Duncan, like it was sustained. He was great here, but he did at one point we were close to losing him. So if we didn't have Pop, I don't know if we would have even had Duncan. We would be having a discussion about Duncan.
Yeah, he almost went to the Magic but then Doc Rivers I think it was Doc Rivers was the GM or something, or so whoever was in charge, like wouldn't let his family come with him, or
Yeah,
something about not letting someone come with him, and that kind of was the turning point for him. He's like, all right, screw it.
yeah,
He's like, guys.
yeah. And I mean, I would flip flop from Duncan or Jordan. Like I wouldn't. I mean, Jordan, you got the greatest player ever, and then with Duncan, he's the greatest power forward ever, and he's a great teammate. I mean, he's the full package. Um, yeah, I guess I could go with that if you wanted to go with
Well,
Duncan.
those
I don't
two
see
would
the problem.
definitely be on our I think all of our starting fives. That's for sure.
Yeah, easy.
Easy. Let me
Oh,
see.
another thing, Rob. Uh, what you said about what Phil Jackson said about us not being a dynasty.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I, I don't know when it comes to when Phil Jackson says anything regarding the Spurs. I don't know where it's coming from when it comes to him because sometimes it seems like he's taking jabs because
Mm-hmm.
he had something against Pop almost.
I
I mean,
think
he said it
yeah.
should have been an asterisk, after our first championship. That wasn't cool. I
Yeah.
mean, knowing how hard it is to win a championship, that wasn't cool. So
I think it's a
I don't know.
competitive like I think it's like not anything personal. I think it's just like how players are competitive from that
Yeah.
era. I feel like coaches are competitive from that era. You know that
There's
that
some
goes
Jordan
through.
in Jackson.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Wait, who? What did you say?
There's some Jordan in Jackson.
Oh
Some
yeah,
Michael
yeah,
Jordan and Phil Jackson.
that's true.
Do you ever hear those stories about how Phil Jackson would like just be on the refs but like the whole game, just nonstop bickering about calls that like he didn't even think were like bad, but like he would do it purposely to get calls.
Yeah.
Now I'm not saying he might not be. I mean, every coach might do that, but like when I heard that, it just kind of like I don't know, that just kind of ticked me off a little bit. I don't know about you guys, but it was just like that's not how I would want to win games and get calls to go our way just by complaining the whole time. I don't like
Well,
that.
well,
Oh,
it's different when you're in the seat, man. It's different
True.
when you're in the seat because you gotta do what you gotta do to back your players up. You gotta do what you gotta do to keep the officials honest. Because yeah, you can be as nice as you want to officials, and then next thing you know, they've made 6 calls against you. You know what I mean? And then now they're in the bonus, and you look up and you're like, God damn, what the hell just happened? So it's easy to kind of lose it when you're on their floor. I mean, Pop loses it all the time.
I think
Pop
Pop is.
rips the shit out of their officials, man.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, I guess I shouldn't talk when we have Pop as our coach.
Yeah.
I think I think Pop's the greatest coach ever. I think he's better than Phil, but there's reasons to.
Despite my thoughts on him this past season, I agree.
Yeah, he's better than Phil Jackson.
Yeah. I think if you tell me which one would I rather have, I think I'd rather have Pop because he's so like worldly, and Phil Jackson is very like Zen guy. Like he's all about like, mental health and things like that. Understanding you as a person, but so is Pop.
I just look at Pop as like, and when I take the two coaches, I know, people could easily go towards the championships, which is fair, but I'm all about like your winning percentage and when you had the chance to win championships and when you're there, what you did with it. So that's why I always, when I say Jordan or LeBron, I mean, I look at the records too, but when it comes to Pop and Phil Jackson, I see Phil Jackson as a guy who is so good at taking all these different personalities and taking all this talent and winning with it. But then I see Pop as he'll take a guy that you never even heard of and find a way to implement him into the offense, and he becomes, a star for our team. I mean, who would have thought, Boris Diaw would be that vital to a championship, or Thiago Splitter? Like no one would have thought that. And
Yeah.
it's
Coffee Gang, shout out.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Here's my last point on that, or maybe before we go into Game of Zone talk. But here's my last point on Phil Jackson versus Pop. I mean, you could argue that Coach Pop introduced the kind of the 3-point small ball era with the 2013-14 squads.
Yeah.
Like Steve Kerr said himself that they modeled their game after the Spurs.
Mm-hmm.
So you could argue that Pop was really, or someone that's in the front office of the Spurs was kind of the architect. I botched that word bad. Architect of the small ball era.
Mm-hmm.
And Phil Jackson, who's running? Name me one team that runs a triangle still. no one runs the triangle anymore, right? I mean, it works for the personnel and the players he had, but it didn't really transfer eras. I mean, Pop was able to transfer from era to era. He went from the big man of Duncan and Robinson, transferred to the point guard era / shooting guard era of Tony Parker and Monta Ginobili. Then he went to the 3-point era with Danny Green, eventually developing Kawhi Leonard. You had Gary Neal. Trying to think who else from that 2014 squad.
Yeah.
Marco Bellinelli. I mean, all these, he was able to transfer from era to era to era, and teams have constantly tried to model themselves after the Spurs. I'm not saying teams weren't trying to model themselves after the Lakers and Bulls when they were in their primes, but like I said, no one's running the triangle offense anymore,
And who came from Phil Jackson's tree?
Luke Walton? Yeah.
That's great.
Brian Shaw.
I mean, I'm sure there's plenty, but none that Mike Budenholzer's arguably the best coach in the NBA right now. He's a product of Pop.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, Derek Fisher.
Yeah, Derek Fisher.
Yeah, how'd that work
out? Yeah. So, greatest of all time, GOAT. I think that's kind of what this whole Game of Zones season finale is about. We got Jordan coming back with the dream team of 99, or was it 99? And they're
92.
92? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's all crazy. Anyways, they're coming back as the White Walkers to end the debate of who is the GOAT of all time. And so these first two seasons, man.
Who's the GOAT of all time?
Do y'all love Game of Zones? I mean, I love all these. Sometimes I'll just binge watch a whole season just for shits and gigs.
I like it, but I haven't seen this season.
You haven't seen the last 2 episodes?
2 episodes in. Have you seen Game of Thrones?
Man, I'm on season 2.
Oh, jeez. Oh, gosh.
With the game, this is awesome, man. It's a play. It's like a parody of Game of Thrones. I think you know that, but it's super funny, dude. And so right now, what's going on in this last season is that, that the Dream Team is coming back to kind of take over the world, I guess you could say, take over the realm.
They're the White Walkers.
Yeah, they're like the bad guys. You know what I mean? So right now, in this last episode, they did an all-star ballad selection, and it was super hilarious because it was the media were meeting together, and then they had to cast their votes, and then they went to the players, and the players were all like, hey, well, why can't we cast our own votes, right? The way that they do in the NBA with the all-star or the end of the year awards. You know how they have a player awards, and I don't know. It's just there's just so many jokes, man. I don't want to spoil it anymore. I don't know, dude. It's super funny.
I'm gonna watch it. I've actually seen I've seen the other seasons before. I just didn't see this season. I saw one when they were talking about 2K, and that was the funniest thing I've ever seen.
They do those things. They do those things so good, and it's progressed into it just going from short funny clips almost into entire episodes. And I saw someone in the YouTube comments is like this should be a show you can stream on Netflix.
Yeah.
And I fully agree. It is so funny, and I mean this is the final season of it, and I'm just why you can carry this thing on forever. I hope that they do.
I know. I was kind of bummed out. I was like, man, I hope that now that Game of Thrones is over, that wouldn't mean that this is over too, but it seems like that's how it's gonna go, because they use a lot of the same themes from the show, Destin, and they are events and that happen, and they'll transfer it over into the basketball world. It's just so funny, dude. It's just hilarious.
The Spurs used to be the White Walkers.
I remember that.
Yeah,
we were the White Walkers. Yeah, but now ever since I think we won it all in 2014, they kind of changed, because the narrative of that would have been the bad guys would have won. And that wasn't really the storyline at the time, so they kind of had to switch it up. But we've been the White Walkers, but I think since Kawhi got traded away, not anymore.
It's as far as cartoon parodies of the NBA, it's one that I watch all the time, and I'm trying to think of it in my head what it's called, and it's on Instagram, and they are so funny. I just cannot recall what it is.
Did you see? So I think this was. I think there are 2 episodes in the last season. there was one before. It was like the summer one. It was a summer episode, I think, when like all the trades were made and like Kawhi and Paul George were on the Clippers and everything. And the premise kind of led into these past two episodes, but it was like how Rob was saying, like the dream team is like coming back to take over the world. Well, it started with this episode in the summer. Dion Waiters ate like a J.R. Smith's like special pie or whatever, because when Dion Waiters ate those on the plane, and so he's off the side freaking out, and he sees Larry Bird, the three-eyed raven, on this tree talking to him. He's like, your generation is soft with your hand checking and blah blah blah, this and that, and like there was a reckoning coming. And I think that's what kind of was going to lead it into the 92 Dream Team take over the world storyline. But just seeing Dion Waiters freaking out, looking at seeing Larry Bird, or hallucinating and seeing Larry Bird with three eyes on a tree, I'm like, how do you think of this stuff? Like, oh, it's so great. It's so great.
Yeah, dude, it's hilarious. That's one thing I'm so glad that's coming out right now, because I mean, it's given us some type of NBA fix. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just something to look forward to.
Yeah. Anything else y'all want to talk about before we get out of here? Anything Spurs related? Did y'all see that? I mean, it's not Spurs related, but Pau Gasol said he wouldn't mind going back to the Lakers.
Oh, jeez, dude.
No,
just
okay.
retire, man. Just retire, man. Like, come on.
Okay. You know, as far as Pau Gasol is concerned, I did see that. Man, it's just crazy what revisionist history will do to you. Because I was watching the Game 7, Lakers versus Celtics, and I recall Kobe killing them, murdering them, and stepping over their corpse and holding up the championship. And that game, dude, Kobe was awful, and it was
Kobe
all
shot
Pau.
8 for 24.
It was all Pau. Like, because Kobe in the fourth quarter came alive a little bit, but I was like, dang, it was all Pau. I don't remember it being this much Pau. It was a lot of Pau.
LA won't give up that MVP though. They won't give it to anyone else but Kobe.
No,
Kobe deserved it for the whole
he
series.
deserved it. Yeah, for the series. But it was just that game. I was like, dang, Pau came alive in Game 7 like this. I don't remember this.
Yeah, dude, Pau was good, bro. Pau was really good.
I liked him on the Spurs. I thought he was a solid Spur for the first couple of years, and then he kind of fell off and got hurt, and everybody hated him all of a sudden.
Yeah, everyone hates him because of his contract, and I think that's why people are gonna hate Rudy Gay. Last year and this year, and then that's why people hate on Patty Mills, is because
again, I get
pay him later.
They're getting paid like more money than what they're producing, but when you're a small market team, like they're not gonna land some other beautiful free agent just because they have that money, and
Exactly.
It's not that simple. People, I hope people understand. Like, and again, I'm not saying they're not overpaid. I've said that probably every time I've said this. They're not. Well, it's not that they're not paid; they are, but it's just
they're definitely like overpaid for because the Spurs pay them to do leadership, veteran things. Lead by example, teach young players how to be professionals. Like the Spurs organization pays out for that, where a lot of other teams don't pay out for that. We did it with Pau. Pau said it in I think his second year with us, the media day. He's like, I'm here to lead by example. I'm going to push myself every day, blah, 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 blah. He's like, I'm going to help these young guys develop and grow. And he's like, and that's why I get paid the big bucks to do that. That's what he said. He's like, that's why I get paid the big bucks to do those type of things. And I see that now in Rudy Gay. I can see the Spurs being like, hey, we can afford to pay you more. We're going to ask you to do a little less, maybe physically, but we're going to really demand the mental part out of you. And I think that's kind of maybe what they do with they demand both out of Patty Mills this season. But yeah,
Patty Mills had a great year, man. He might have had his best year of his career this year.
yeah.
I think sometimes we, as fans, count our players' pockets just a little too much.
Yeah.
Because I understand it, and I'm in the same category where I'm like, this guy's getting paid too much. But like you guys said, like it's the context of the whole thing. And I guess partly why I'm so frustrated with like people talking about money is my boy Dak. I don't know if you guys Cowboys fans too.
Oh yeah.
But
You know what?
I get tired of that.
Hey, Matty, are we gonna be okay with your ex-coach or no?
Are we gonna be okay with what?
Like, are the Cowboys gonna do well with y'all's ex-coach?
Oh,
I really don't
I-
know. You tell me. Like, what was his issues in Green
Oh,
Bay?
Green Bay.
I mean, he just couldn't adapt, and I mean, Aaron Rodgers is truly, in my opinion, the LeBron James of the NFL. Like, probably the most talented, like raw talent in NFL history, or at least the most talented raw. Like, if you watch Aaron Rodgers highlights,
For reals.
unbelievable. And we've had him in his prime for how long, and we have one Super Bowl to show for it. And that is entirely on the mismanagement of the front office and coaching. They have completely failed in every aspect to build around Aaron Rodgers properly. On the defensive end, they just started building the defense last year for like the first time in a decade since we last had a top 10 defense with the Super Bowl.
So if you see your ex-coach going to the Cowboys, what are your thoughts on how he helps or doesn't help the Cowboys team?
I mean, it could be just like a better fit, maybe just towards the end of his stint with the Packers, it just wasn't a good fit anymore. I mean, I know it wasn't. Maybe he could fit better with the Cowboys. I don't know. I mean, he's a very conservative coach. Yes, he did, and then towards the end, he gave up the play calling, and we still sucked, so we took it back. And he was just very conservative, and with gunslinger like Rodgers, it just wasn't a good fit.
See,
I think he'll fit better with the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys, will have a good year. But the amazing thing about Mike McCarthy and switching to the Cowboys and Dak Prescott and all that is that the Cowboys haven't been to the conference championship since 1995. Let's not forget that, fellas.
Oh, we don't. We know.
Oh,
we just don't. We don't act like we know, but we know.
I had to bring that up. Sorry.
It sounded like McCarthy. His firing was kind of a byproduct too. It's like because it felt like they wanted to just kind of erase the deck a little bit and try to,
Yeah, they're trying to kind of transfer into the new era. I mean, they did a good job last year making it to the NFC Championship. But yeah, like I said, I do think McCarthy will be a good fit. I think he's a better fit with Dak.
I'm a fanboy just a little bit. So when it comes to Mike McCarthy, I looked at a lot into it. I saw the whole hour interview that he did, where he was talking about what he did when he got fired or when he was away from football. How he was looking at every single team and he was coming up with different schemes and trying to become more innovative. So I'm hyped as far as Mike McCarthy, and being a Cowboys fan, any coach that's coming in that has championship experience, period, I'm cool with it.
Yeah, we're just happy to move on from Garrett, man.
Oh, he's awful. The clapper, it's awful, dude.
My dad would see him smiling on the TV, bro, and lose it, bro.
Oh man, it would piss me off, dude. Oh my god, dude! Like you make one nice play, like you kick. You kick an extra point, and he's just like the most excited fan on the sideline. He was a cheerleader, dude.
Yeah, he was.
It was.
We're not going to be able to be. I'm not going to be friends with many people from Spurs Nation during the football season.
That's okay. That's okay. Hey, no, I wasn't gonna say, but that kind of makes sense. Was it Mike McCarthy? Is that how you say his name? Mike McCarthy.
Mike McCarthy.
Mike McCarthy. If you said that he's more of like a game manager and not really a guy that goes for those gunslinger plays, that sounds like a good fit. It does, because Dak can't throw a deep ball for shit. He only threw like 2 or 3. He threw him. He threw him when they counted, but that's just not how he operates. So I don't know. Hopefully, it's a good fit.
I hate Cowboys fans. I'll be honest with you. I hate them, dude.
It's pure entertainment to me, man. Pure entertainment.
And I hate them. We got the worst fan. I hate them. I just hate.
You're not America's team. I'm sorry to say this. I'm gonna catch some heat, but you're not America's team.
Yes, they are.
They're America's team, but I hate Cowboys fans. They are the worst fans ever, Rob.
Don't you get it twisted? They are America's team.
Championships
don't matter on this type of thing. Championships, they don't matter.
They got championships. We got championships.
Yeah,
now.
but a lot of people like to throw it in our face. When was the last time y'all won champion? Well, no.
But Cowboys fans are the. I'll tell you why the Cowboys fans are the worst. They are the worst. They even made me delete one of my Cowboys fan pages. I was like, screw y'all. Like I'm out of here because Cowboys fans, they're not like Spurs fans where you see Spurs fans, we're going to support our team. We might talk a little trash here and there, but we're going to support our team.
Mhm.
Cowboys fans will throw you under the dirt, and
Oh,
they're
yeah.
on your team.
Brutal.
Like I've been seeing so many Dak hate memes. I'm like, dude, like let the man get his money. We pay Romo all that money. Like get off Dak's case, man.
And then they bring in Andy Dalton.
Yeah, and then they're like, oh, we got Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton?
Man, hey.
He's a good backup.
About 6 years ago, though, Andy Dalton, about 6 years ago, dang, bro, that guy won me a fantasy championship once upon a time. He was lighting it up like in 2013, 14. He was lighting it up.
Don't be like those fans, man. Don't tell me that he should replace Dak. I mean, we will argue right here. Do not tell me that.
Man, all I know is that Amari Cooper goes down the field all the time, and Dak can't get him the ball because he can't reach.
It was a really nice stream. Thanks, everybody, for coming through.
Don't forget that the Cowboys haven't made a conference championship since 1995. Good night.
All right, guys. No, yeah, but that is gonna do it for us here at OOC Live. Catch us next Tuesday. Make sure to go to oocspurs.com. You can find me at on Twitter and Instagram, on YouTube at Bucking Spurs. Matty, why don't you let everyone know where they can find you?
Yeah, as always, SpursFanblog.com, on Instagram, SpursFanblog. This upcoming Saturday, Harrison from San Antonio Spurs Talk and I have an article coming out. We're going to talk about some of the most forgotten or the most famous Spurs that were kind of forgotten, like Tracy McGrady and Andre Miller, just the most random Spurs. Sorry, I couldn't remember the title. Me and Harris will be talking about some of those guys. But just shout out to all the support in the group chat. Ruru, you know we love you. Everybody else, Rohan, we appreciate your support as always, and stay tuned for more content coming from us.
Yeah, Destin, where can everyone find you, bud?
You can find me on YouTube, Clan the Spurs Fan. You can find me on Instagram, Spurs Dynasty, Spurs Wave. Really do appreciate everybody coming through and supporting us. And just like Matt said, we got more content on the way. So.
Yeah, guys, we have a lot more content on the way. I mean, just we have a lot of plans for the season, or honestly, once the NBA draft kind of gets going and we get a button that's gonna tell us, okay, things are gonna move forward. That's when we're really gonna be putting out our premium content for you guys. So if you love our live shows, if you love our mailbags, thank you. Share them, subscribe them. Those are the two pillars of what OOC is and where we started and what we're going to be giving to you guys free on the reg, not just now, but during the season as well. So make sure that you share the love for Spurs Nation. Thank you for being a Spurs fan. If you know other Spurs fans, let them know about OOC. Let them know about Spurs Fan Blog, Bucking Spurs, and Spurs Wave and Clan the Spurs Fan. All right, so thank you guys for tuning in and hanging out with us on a Tuesday evening. We'll talk to you guys next episode. Go Spurs, go.
Order in the court. Order in the goddamn court.
Sir, you're out of order.